Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the DCU Experience. My name is Garrick. Of course, with me today is Crisis, Nick, and True. This podcast is sponsored by GamerSupps. If you'd like to get GamerSupps at 10% off, you can go to gamersupps.gg/key issues, place your order, help us out, and yeah. Also, if you would like to leave a super chat at the end of every live show, we will do a Q&A, and we will answer any and all questions that have been left as a super chat. Really appreciate all of you who are out there watching and all of you that could join us today. In today's podcast, there's not a lot of news to talk about, so we're going to make it up as we go, but also kind of not really. We're going to talk a little bit about Supergirl. We're going to talk more about Creature Commandos. We're going to talk about some casting, and then what we're really going to focus on today is the canon of the universe. That was really the big news that came out from this week. James Gunn made an announcement on one of the 3 social media platforms that he frequents. I'm not sure which one it was. Maybe Threads. Nobody's on there but him. But somebody found it, and we're going to talk about it today. And really, it was an interesting post that I think we sort of all already understood, but somebody asked and he clarified, and specifically talking about what is canon to the DCU, because we came into this new universe not really 100% sure. What we knew was canon was most of Peacemaker and everything that was going to happen in the DCU, starting with Creature Commandos. But I think a lot of us assumed that Blue Beetle would be canon, as the same actor was continuing on in the role, as well as the same cast, right? So it makes sense for that to be part of the canon. And then, of course, the Suicide Squad, which directly leads into Peacemaker. They sort of go hand in hand. But what James Gunn said was Peacemaker is canon 100% other than the Justice League scene. Creature Commandos is canon. And he considers the Suicide Squad to be an imperfect memory. Basically meaning anything that is referenced in the DCU from the previous universe is made canon, and anything that is not specifically referenced can be considered a part of that incomplete memory or not canon. For example, Starro was mentioned. We know that Starro attacked Corto Maltese and Rick Flag Jr. died there. We know that for a fact. We also know that Peacemaker is canon based on the fact that the Suicide Squad or Task Force X is now illegal, which is why they have to use the Creature Commandos. So let's get right into this conversation. What do we as a group consider to be the canon? And can we go ahead and just say from the get-go that Blue Beetle is canon despite it technically not being there?
The only films right now that are canon to the DCU are the Joel Schumacher Batman movies. And that is confirmed through me right here exclusively. Just want to let you guys know that.
I mean,
Nick
that's
is
a great
not
place
source
to
of
start.
news. Nick, do not believe anything Nick ever says about anything being news or breaking news.
Okay, so that's rude.
I don't think the Batman that we saw in Creature Commandos looks like that Batman, but hey, maybe he got a new suit. But if that's the case, then that would make the Flash canon, because those movies are canon to the Flash based on the ending of that film.
So I mean, I guess all we really know is that Creature Commandos is in there, and then everything else is kind of just whatever, you know. Like you kind of ran through everything that he said, but I guess the other thing that I kind of feel like the whole thing is needlessly complicated. Why can't we just like start? Like, why can't we just? He's got to just. I feel like it would have been easier if he just said, "Okay, look, this is canon. This isn't. I just wanted to use these actors again." Like, it just seems easier that way to do it, but that's just me.
I feel like he's holding off because I think Peacemaker Season 2, he said that that's going to address the discrepancy, like why
Yeah.
it's in the new universe. So I feel like he could be specific. He probably does have. I'm interested to see because, you know, I think everyone agrees the multiverse is overplayed. So I don't know how do you tackle, how do you address it without I mean, I think the working theory is Peacemaker was on like coke or something during season 1, and so when he saw the Justice League, that was all just in his head or something. Like
Yeah.
it'll be something to that effect. I feel like that's maybe why he's not being super, super, super specific.
I just feel like if you're starting a new universe, um, in the very in like the predominant social media discussion about it all the time is like what is and isn't canon. I mean, you got to consider that the majority of people are not like us. Even the subsection of fans that are like super hyped, that's pretty small compared to the rest of the people who are just like, "Oh shit, Superman came out. You want to go watch that? Yeah, sure, yeah. Let's go watch that. Is it in 3D?" Like that kind of thing. Like they just go and they watch videos. They might watch, the occasional YouTube video about something cool from the film, but the majority of people aren't as hyped as they probably were when the MCU's there. So if you're starting a whole new universe, you're kind of making this a bit needlessly complicated. Like, let's just, I don't know. I would almost prefer to him to just double back and go, I kind of want to make all my shit canon too. Like, just we're gonna make the Suicide Squad's canon. Just deal with it. This is the start of it, but that's also canon too. So like, it would just be easier. But
It's funny to me because this reminds me of the New 52, where instead of just starting from the beginning, they're like, listen,
yeah,
some of this is canon and some of this isn't. Some of this is apocryphal. Nightfall happened, but in a different way. All the Green Lantern stuff that you liked also happened, but in a different way that you could still read those old stories and get the story. It was like, okay, let's just go from the beginning and start from there. But in this case, I don't mind it. I like all the gun stuff, so I think it'd be a shame to have that be not wasted, but just not around. I do think it's a good idea. It'll be confusing for a little bit, but they don't really cross over with the rest of the verse that much. So I think even the average person can say, oh, the verse started with the Suicide Squad and then continue on from there. Harley is the big problem, right?
Yeah, I totally agree on the Harley point. Just because Harley does have a lot of baggage and a lot of history in the DC extended universe, really more than most characters. I mean, she was in the original Suicide Squad movie. She is presumably in the air cut somewhere. She is she has her own solo movie, quote unquote, with the Birds of Prey, and then also she was in the Suicide Squad movie, and she references events from the past, which would then in turn sort of canonize those. I don't know if there's anything outside of like Harley or like Captain Boomerang being in the film that really harkens back to that first movie at all in any sort of tangible way. I know that Rick Flag obviously is in both films, but doesn't really reference the previous one at all. So it's really just the Harley stuff. And there is the thing to consider where, all right, are we going to recast Harley? Or is there going to be a new Harley Quinn? Are we going to get rid of arguably the most popular actress in the world and replace her with somebody else? That's a really tough decision to make. And if you were going to do that, I think leaving the door open for things being more vague makes sense. I think if James wanted to be like, all right, the Suicide Squad is just canon, then he could. I don't think there's anything in there that's too explicit that's like, all right, this is from the previous universe and it can't be used in any capacity. But
there's a lot of benefits to not having the Suicide Squad be canonized, or at least not all of it. Specifically, the one that we're all thinking of is Polka-Dot Man being alive again. In perfect memory, we bring Polka-Dot Man back. We give him minimum, I would say, Crisis, back me up. I don't know if I'm wrong. Minimum five picture solo deal. Like, just flesh him out a bit, if we can.
Yeah,
it's what
at
the
least.
it's what the fans want. It's what the people want.
Bringing up Captain Boomerang, it reminds me of and he's kind of done it with Rick Flag, and that was in the comics as well, although it was flipped, right? It was Rick Flag Sr. was killed, and then Jr. took over. And in the comics, Captain Boomerang was killed by Tim Drake's father in Identity Crisis, and then he had a successor. He had a son who took up the mantle. Because a lot of people have been pointing out with Captain Boomerang, like, he is an integral Flash villain. If we get Flash later, they had one scene in the DCEU. Would it be more appropriate to say like he had a dad who's still alive and he's the Captain Boomerang going forth, a Rick Flag thing going forward. But I think part of the canon is that is funny to me is we've been, you know, Drew mentioned the New 52, but even before then with Koei, you know, they were like Marv Wolfman wrote Crisis on Infinite Earths and he was writing New Teen Titans at the same time. And New Teen Titans, you're like, oh, it's a reboot, everything's new. But the next issue of New Teen Titans is like, man, that Anti-Monitor stuff was crazy. You know, that last week that was insane.
But
And so,
to be fair, that was like the first crossover event that existed in comic
yeah,
history. So I think they just didn't know how to handle anything yet. They'd never
it
been
was
presented
the
with
first.
that.
It was the first big reboot, but my point is there's always been like that he was writing that, so he's like, I'm not restarting the last 100 issues I just did, you know. And it sort of seems like a similar
Yeah,
thing
fair.
with James Gunn, where he's like, I spent years making Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, I can't throw it all away, you
I
know.
was never a huge Jai Courtney fan as an actor, but I actually kind of liked the depiction of Boomerang that they had. I kind of didn't want him to die, and you know, spoiler alert, the Suicide Squad. But I mean, I'd like to see Boomerang in the DCU properly, whether it's Jai Courtney or not. I assume it probably won't be because he got destroyed by helicopter blades. But
Yeah.
who knows? I was telling Garrick, um, in I don't remember, or maybe you guys were involved. I think it'd be really funny if there was just a running joke with Polka-Dot Man where he keeps dying in films and showing back up again, and not we don't explain how he gets there, like ever. He's just like, yeah, I
Nope.
didn't actually die. Yeah, like Starro, yeah, he hit me, but
I'm
I was good.
fine.
I was good after that.
I'm
Or
fine.
like a building falls on him, he's like, yeah, it landed perfectly around me. They don't ever explain it. It's just the greatest
Uh,
running mystery in the history of the DCU. Unkillable.
So
but
go ahead, True.
so I was gonna say, yeah, on the Harley point that you brought up earlier, I would recast. Now it's gonna be very hard to find someone that can fill those shoes, right?
Yeah.
But like, I think that would be a nice clean break because she's too big of a character. Because like you can have the same Peacemaker, you can have even someone like Waller, you can have the same, right? But I think Harley is so. When people see Harley, I think they will associate it with the old world,
Yeah.
with the old universe, it being the same actor. So I think you might need that clean break, even if you lose a talent like her. You know, maybe recast her as something else. But I think you need that clean break.
Whether we want
She's
to or
pretty
She
much
not.
the
has
main character. She, you know, like people were talking, you know, who are the pillars of the DC universe, and
That's
that was,
exactly where I was going.
yeah, that was a conversation for a little bit, and then it's like, well, inarguably Harley's at least the fourth pillar because she's in
Mhm.
all these movies. They gave her an animated series following her appearances in all those movies. Um, yeah, I think we're
She's the thing that people don't get about Harley Quinn is that like she's a very similar character to she's like her and Batman are like DC's Spider-Man. Not in the sense that the characters are the same or anything, but what the point I'm getting at was I didn't want to make an analogy that I couldn't finish properly, but the point I'm trying to make is that they are merchandising juggernauts.
Uh,
They are very popular characters like Deadpool with a very
yeah,
that perfect analogy. Harley Quinn
yeah,
is is like Marvel's Deadpool. She sells an assload of merchandise. TVs, book bags, action figures, Funko Pops, Lego sets, like all that stuff is all like custom tailored for like teen. Well, basically, me and Crisis, we buy it all. But the point is that like if you're going to recast that character, you got to go with like the biggest talent that you can. You're not going to probably find an unnamed person to do that job well. So it's a monumental task. It's like at this point, it's like she's casting Harley is on pace with your Trinity. Like that's you got to get it right.
especially following up that performance,
Yeah.
right? It's like trying to be the next Iron Man after RDJ. Like you can be good, but if you're not as good, or if you don't bring something like completely different to the table, right?
Hmm.
It's gonna be like, well, you're not RDJ, right? So I feel
Whoever they
that's whoever
cast
gets
as
cast.
Joker is going to have a huge role to fill after Heath Ledger, because I don't know if you guys know this. Garrett knows that we've talked about this. There hasn't been another Joker after Heath Ledger.
Yeah,
They
it's
didn't
really
cast
weird.
another one.
Yeah, there's been an
It's
Arthur
crazy.
who was kind of similar, but no
Yeah.
Joker.
Sort of derivative.
Yeah, I think the Harley thing is true. Everything that you guys said, she's one of the biggest characters in the world, whether you like that or not. I personally do love Harley, but I think we've really missed out on a lot of Harley's roots in media over the course of the past 5 to 10 years. I would say we've missed a lot of that connection to the Joker and what makes the character this quirky, fun, goofy, silly maniac is her association with the Joker, and really in the comics, and then also obviously in the DC universe, we've had her emancipate herself from the Joker and distance herself from that character, which is fine as part of like the character growth. But again, in a universe like this in the DCU, I would like to see these characters as they came up or as they were represented within the comics just, one time, especially for all these characters that hadn't had these opportunities. And I know I said it in a previous podcast, but I do mean it. Like, the Joker has not ever had an accurate comic book representation of the character from, like, the Bronze Age, where he was really redefined with, like, the Killing Joke and all that, and really started to gain even more popularity. We've never had that version of the character from the comic books, whether we go back all the way to, like, the start of the Bronze Age to now. We just haven't seen it, and I would love for the DCU to be that sort of representation. Of course, we have had it in like animated series and video games and things like that. When we're talking about like live action, which is like the biggest stage of all stages, it's going to reach the largest amount of people. There are so many comic book characters that just simply have not been comic book accurate. Joker's one. I would love to see the Harley Quinn and Joker connection before eventually splitting them up, because what we got in the original Suicide Squad sucked. And another character that people just have no idea what he's like is Green Arrow. Like, we got the Arrow TV show. That wasn't Oliver Queen. That was like a guy named Oliver Queen doing like a cheap Batman imitation. So what I want to see is just more faithful, comic book accurate representations of these characters. And that is a sticking point that we've brought up with the Creature Commandos and James Gunn doing his thing where he's changing them. But of course, these characters like Harley Quinn or Green Arrow are much, much bigger than somebody like G.I. Robot, Frankenstein, and, I hate to say it, but even Cersei to some degree.
No, yeah, 100%, yeah.
Yeah, things like, Harley, like you're alluding to, her coming up with the Joker and then ultimately their breakup, but then also the Harley and Poison Ivy angle that never got explored or even broached. It's kind of like with Harley, it kind of is the case in the DCU, but if we only had Batman movies of him in the Justice League, like Harley was only associated with the Squad, whereas there's a whole other side to that character. And then, with Green Arrow, we haven't gotten a Green Arrow, Black Canary. That relationship wasn't covered. Black Canary was in that Harley Quinn movie. Hard to remember, but we haven't gotten that. And then, there's a lot of shades that like haven't even been attempted. So I think it is definitely necessary to get some of those here soon.
And I think they have kind of a pathway, right? If you want to look at the old DCAU, now for certain characters it's not the best, but for Harley, do you want to look at the Batman the Animated Series? Obviously it's
that's where she came from.
Well, yeah, right. But like that arc, it feels like we skipped so much in the old DCEU. Because I can understand for like Spider-Man, you don't want to show Uncle Ben dying, but like this is our first live action Harley. I know what happened where she broke up with the Joker. If you just, if you know of Harley Quinn and the Joker, you just don't. You just kind of have to fill in the gaps. So it is a bit weird to just skip things.
Reminds me a bit of how Sony decided to do an entire Spider-Man-less Spider-Verse. Like he's looming in the background, but you never see him.
At least
right?
Batman was in Suicide Squad. He punched
Yeah.
Harley in the face once. They had that
Yeah.
one encounter. But yeah, so it's a little
A
better.
true gentleman.
Yes.
But
It would have been cool to see Harley introduced in something like the Creature Commandos, right? If we had a Suicide Squad show similar to Creature Commandos where we got a whole episode dedicated to Harley and saw like her whole backstory, that would be sick, right? But we got it in like hazy sort of pieces in the background of the Suicide Squad to like drill.
what you're
you know,
bringing
it
up
was just
could be really cool. Like for these characters, like these big, larger than life kind of characters that we've all seen a bunch of times in film, Superman, Batman, Harley Quinn, Wonder Woman, a lot Flash, even to some extent, where we've seen probably haven't seen Flash enough in film, but we've certainly got. I think the CW ended at like 28-9 seasons or something, but they could always recap their history like briefly in an animated special, like a one shot or something like that.
Yes.
That would give us the ability to kind of take a look at the film characters through the animated lens, where it all just that this we talk about this all the time. We know that animation is going to be canon to this universe. Live action film is going to be canon to this universe. Video games are going to be canon to this universe. There's presumably going to be comic books and graphic novels, and maybe potentially even regular novels without pictures that are canon to this universe. So doing stuff like that, a 20-minute, 30-minute special where they outline, this is how Batman's parents got killed in this universe. It was, I don't know, whatever. Like we all know how it happened, but. Or you could always recap stuff that way, so you can kind of cut that crap out from the films. We don't have to recap it like again and again and again and again.
And
I've always thought that reminds me of like with Spider-Man 2, where it starts and it's Alex Ross art, evoking the first movie and recapping that. And of course, he's a famous comic artist. So even if at the start of a movie, if they wanted to use comic book art, in the intro to sort of depict, to catch everybody up to speed. But the thing about with Harley, to bring it back to the canon thing, because we sort of talked about how a lot of her arc has been, sort of glossed over, is I feel like that probably is a big reason why that movie is a whatever he said, inaccurate memory, is because I can see him wanting to delve into the origin of Harley, and depending on where the universe is, we've looked at a few clues, like Kid Flash was apparently confirmed, so Wally's like a teenager or whatever. But yeah, I feel like as sad as it's going to be, we probably are going to get in the new universe. Harley was not a part of the Suicide Squad, because for her to do that, it kind of necessitates a lot of her history to already have passed. Even if we're hypothetically thinking, let's take the Suicide Squad, it's just in a pocket universe, right? And we're not applying, the rest of her appearances. That still would mean she's had to have a falling out with the Joker. She's, gotten her skin bleached, so there was something there. And she's a solo operative, and she has history with the Squad. In doing that, that's like, because when did she join the Suicide Squad in the comics? That was in the New 52.
Yeah.
So that's like 20 years or so of her comic history that's been, skipped essentially, if that was going to be adapted. So I do think a practical reason, just talking through it, is Harley is probably going to be something where we can't assume it's the same. That's something that James Gunn is going to be more interested in honing in on, is Harley's origin.
But speaking of origins and keeping consistency throughout the universe, we have a character in Blue Beetle who is really the big question mark, because I think we sort of figured out what's going on with the Suicide Squad. I think that makes the most sense. Everything but Harley and maybe Captain Boomerang is canon, right? All of that's going to have happened in my opinion. I think that the movie one for one will have happened. Maybe Harley is a different character and is mentioned in like Peacemaker. Like that wasn't Harley Quinn, that was,
White Rabbit.
Yeah, anyone. That was that could be literally any character, right? Just insert in there, and Peacemaker could be like, what? And that's your explanation, right? And everything else is literally the same. Maybe Bloodsport, but I don't see why James Gunn wouldn't want to bring Idris Elba back if he wants to do it. And that's a character he's sort of got to write everything for, which feels cool. And I wouldn't be surprised if in Superman we get like a Bloodsport reference. Like maybe that also happened in this universe. But bringing it back to Blue Beetle, we have an animated series that's coming out. The same cast is returning as the voices for those characters. The director and writer of the Blue Beetle movie is coming back to produce that series. And the actor has already said that the show is going to continue the story from the movie. Now, while James Gunn has said that only things that have been referenced in the past are canon, I think we can go ahead and safely assume that basically 100% of the Blue Beetle movie is going to be canon. There are certain things in there that won't be, like LexCorp is mentioned. Obviously, that's not the name of it in the DCU, but it's going to be very, very minor things. I think 99.9% of that film is going to end up becoming canon based on all the information that we have already. James Gunn said that Blue Beetle is a character that they wanted to put in that flashback scene with Cersei, specifically because that's a character they have plans for. Obviously, the animated series is already underway, and we know that it's going to continue the story. So, in my opinion, there are 4 things canon to the DCU right now: Blue Beetle, the Suicide Squad, Creature Commandos, and Peacemaker Season 1. That's what I would say definitively. If that's where you want to jump in, those are the things that you should watch. But what are your guys' thoughts on Blue Beetle specifically? Do you think it should just... I mean, you already have an entire origin movie. Why would you ever rehash the origin? It's a good movie. It doesn't contradict anything. It has like nothing to do with the DC Extended Universe.
Yeah, especially because Blue Beetle is not the type of character that I think they would give another full origin movie to.
Yeah.
Right? So...
Or
a
even
good movie,
the show, right?
Yeah, right. So a good movie that references Superman, and like even things like, oh, he referenced LexCorp. What, LexCorp could have just changed their name, right? There are just things that would just not contradict whatsoever. Superman exists, yeah. Maybe the movie just takes place after Superman. That's the only thing that we need to figure out is like the exact timeline, right? But there is really no issues. And I think it'd be really a big shame if they were to remove Blue Beetle for no reason.
Yeah, just thinking it's like I'm wondering maybe because James is clearly going to be pulling a lot from Justice League International, like with Guy Gardner and everything. It seems like he's a big fan of that. So it's like I wonder how long Ted Kord has been missing. If maybe that's something that he might want to address or kind of remix. But then also just thinking, he gave notes on all of these movies. By the time James Gunn was in, he was able to be like, okay, he had the potential to change a few things before Blue Beetle was released, even though that movie was, far along in development and was close to being released before he got in. But he could have just been like, hey, change this line to 2 years instead of he could have had someone ADR something. He had that power to make that movie whatever he wanted, in a certain sense. Obviously not reshoot scenes, but a lot of dialogue he could have added, and he chose not to. So, and with the intention that like this movie is going to be part, he says he's the first character, but not the first DCU movie. I think a lot of that has to do because while I think James Gunn is one of the truer comic book fans to make it into the director's chair and then orchestrate a universe, I don't think when they say things like, oh, this is a different universe, I don't think they necessarily always mean in the Flash, Flash of Two Worlds perspective. I think a cinematic universe is sometimes a different thing. It's like this was made under a different regime, so it's not DCU, because DCU is things that I have overseen intensely, I've produced. That's not that. So he's a DCU character because I want to use him, but that movie isn't the same corporate banner, the same kind of entity, right? So I feel like people kind of are taking that language and mixing up, when again it's like practically everything that Garrick said about the animated series and so forth, like let's be real here, they're going to reference it. They're not going to do a whole animated series following the movie and not at all defer to the origin story.
Especially with the same cast, right? They're going to mention the way he got the Scarab. They're going to mention him fighting OMAC. I feel like it's all but guaranteed.
Right.
So I think that it's not really something that we should be arguing about. If you want to say technically it's not DCU canon, you got me. It's not. But, like, practically, it is. And I'm really excited for it because I do enjoy Blue Beetle a lot. It was one of the reasons I wanted to see it in theaters is because it was going to be part of the new universe, other than the fact that I'm like a DCU stan. I bought my Blue Beetle statue. You can't see him. There's Black Adam back there. The Rock, he'll probably be replaced pretty soon. He's going to lose his spot, unfortunately. But, yeah, Blue Beetle is awesome.
I got 2 Blue Beetle figures in the chamber back here, and then I also have the Carapax figure, so I'm all in. Not to mention, I don't want to say that I speculated a little bit, but I got Carapax's first appearance for about $8 near mint, just in case he comes back. Could become a household name, turn into $1 million comic.
So we're financially we're invested in Blue Beetle being canon. So everything we said, take with a grain of salt.
Exactly.
I haven't seen that movie in a while. Not that it's been out for a crazy long time, but I might watch that again this evening. I enjoy it. It's like, I think that people get a little bit too hung up on stuff, but it's just like a good
fun
popcorn flick.
Yeah, I mean,
it is a fun.
It reminds me of like Phase
Susan
2,
Sarandon's in it.
Phase 2 MCU, like Shazam, stuff like that. It's just solid. Like it's solid. It's solid. Shang-Chi, solid stuff like that. You know, it's not gonna blow your socks off, but it's a good time. Yeah. You'll have fun, and I think that the cast is very charming. It's very humorous. The villain's not that great, but that's pretty much par for the course for most comic book movies. But he's going to get an animated series, and they're hyping it up. I mean, they're saying it's going to be like an anime style. It's going to have a lot of slick action. And based on what we've seen in Creature Commandos, I have to assume that's going to be accurate. And Blue Beetle's got one of the more interesting and fun power sets, not to mention the character, obviously, within the DCU, has a lot of anime influence, like the way he was doing his poses. He was doing, like, Final Fantasy stuff. Very, very anime inspired in the way that the character fights. So if it's animated in that way, I think it'll be a smash hit for sure.
Agreed. Yeah, no disagreements over here.
All right, so we've nailed down the canon. You can write it down. Blue Beetle will be canon. The film will be canon. As far as other goings-on in the DC universe, we do have Supergirl, which has started filming, everyone. Let's go. A lot of exciting things coming out of Supergirl. Obviously, we already talked about Lobo. But, you know, not that we condone this kind of behavior, but we'll probably see some set photos very soon. And that's really exciting.
I condone it.
Okay, I don't.
I don't care.
Nick pays people to do it.
Yeah. I miss the days of seeing Garrick and I have there's a story.
Are you gonna bring up Ultron?
You know goddamn well I'm gonna bring up Ultron, buddy.
Okay.
So there's a story from years ago. If you guys have been around the podcast before, I've told it, but when Age of Ultron was filming, there were set photos that were kind of being released daily. And one of the best photos that came out of it was a guy wearing a motion capture suit with a big black parka on top of him. And on top of that was, like, glued onto it was animatronic, like Ultron skeleton. And when it came out, people on the internet lost their minds. It was incredible. And we just turned it into a huge joke about Parkatron. We were calling him Parkatron for a while. Because, of course, anybody with a functioning brain knows that that character is going to be 99.999% CGI. The only thing that's real is the voice, you know, of James Spader. But people were like, "This doesn't look." I was like, "What is wrong with all of you?" So I'm sure I get hype.
You know, on the screen, everyone. Parkatron. If you want to take a look at him in all his glory. He's beautiful.
All of his majesty.
I love him. Look,
there are no strings on me.
He looks like he's ready for a good snowball fight. I mean, he's just in the cut with the...
Sokovia was cold that time of year.
Actually, kind of ahead of where Kanye West went with fashion. You know what I mean? Like, I could see Kanye wearing this exact fit. He's got
That's a
the
That's a
Yeezys on.
Triple H. That's an entrance. That's what Triple H would wear as an entrance to WrestleMania if he was still coming out live today.
We need to get a Brainiac.
Hell
equivalent
yeah,
to
dude.
this in the DCU.
All of you versus all of me. But my oldest son Reed and I are slowly working our way piecemeal through the MCU, and we just watched Age of Ultron the other night, and it was scary for him, but he enjoyed it.
He made
He
it
liked it a
through.
lot.
You know what's not scary and it'll be a good time? Blue Beetle. You should get him to watch
Blue
that.
Beetle, family fun film.
I don't know why you're not working your way through the DCU. It seems a lot better. But
the scene of the Scarab bursting out of his body and liquidating his clothing and slamming him up, I'm sure that won't mortify him for life.
Yeah, he'll never eat a cheeseburger at that rate. The way that busts out of there. But yeah, we've got Supergirl coming out. Hopefully we see
sleep
some
in your
set
bed for the rest of
photos.
my life.
Yeah. We'll see the suit soon, and we were looking it up before the podcast, and Superman started filming it in February, and we got the official first look at Superman in May, so that was just 3 months later. So here in 4 months, we could have an official look at what Supergirl looks like, maybe even earlier, because she is going to be in Superman, or so the streets are saying. The streets are on fire with Supergirl rumors that she will be in Superman, which makes a lot of sense. I'm really going to be interested to see how close her outfit is to Superman's in terms of how it's designed. Like, specifically, is it going to be like the same material and have the same sort of look to it? It's going to be a bit different. Really excited to see what it looks like, and I hope that she has the classic, skirt, the boots, that kind of look. What she was wearing in the New 52 was
that's exactly what I was going to
crime. She should not wear that. Let's get the classic costume back.
Yeah, I want the like, if you look at the cover, you could probably pull it up in 2 seconds. You found Parkatron fast. If you pull up the cover for Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, that's what I wanted to look like. That's like your classic quintessential Supergirl look. Red medium length skirt. You got the boots. You got the blue top, long, blonde curly Q hair. Let's do it. And then of course she punches the shit out of stuff. I'm trying to watch Supergirl punch a sun in half.
Yeah,
I love Supergirl. She's cool.
Have we talked about the Superman costume yet?
No,
yeah.
we I mean, kind of. We sort of talked about it. I talked about it in our most recent video on Key Issues. You can check it out, ranking all the Superman suits, the live-action Superman suits. There's a bit of controversy in there. Nick, a little
there
upset.
There is, because Garrick. I'm not upset with you. I just think that maybe when you take a video that I originally made that was massively successful and you rewrite it and try to reclaim it for yourself, you shouldn't change the rankings and expect people not to be mad about it. Sorry,
wow,
a lot of pent-up aggression.
Blows are being exchanged.
Yeah, I won't spoil it, but
he does not pick the right costume.
If you want to go watch it, my #1 pick for the best Superman suit of all time is the correct pick, and it is not Christopher Reeve. But talking about
how can be the correct pick?
It's the wrong.
Go watch a video. Go watch a video, and I'll convince you. My art. It's not just me going, it's this for like. It's a great argument I put forth, in my opinion. So if you guys haven't seen it, it's a good one.
Yeah.
It's a good one, and I think you'll enjoy it. So go check it out. Not to shill too much, but talking about David Cornsweat's Superman specifically, I do like it. There's a lot of things that I think it does that improve on previous suits. Love the House of L insignia on the chest. Love the way it's designed. I really like the color. The trunks, obviously, being back is huge. Got the gold belt. We got the cape with the insignia on the cape as well. Not a big fan of the collar. Looking a little New 52-ish that way. The lines on the suit, also pretty New 52-ish. And I think the material, a bit thick. I'd like it to be a little bit more form-fitting, show off that physique. Because when I first saw the suit, you can't really tell that David Cornsweat underneath that is huge. he is jacked out of his mind right now, and I had no idea because the suit is pretty thick. It doesn't really accentuate the muscles.
It is like a thick material.
Those are my
But it's
pros
also-
and cons. I think it's a good suit overall. I like it more than the previous verse. Although that did have some amazing design. I love the texture and all the like Easter eggs and everything that were in the suit. If it was like sky blue and he had the trunks, it would be like unbeatable.
The best suit.
Yeah, it'd be
Yeah.
peak.
Yeah.
I won't say it's like a top 5 suit for me, because when I first saw it, I kind of had those same kind of critiques. I was like, the boots looked a little weird, a little off. There's a lot of lines to it, but it's grown on me enough that I have officially put it into my background. It's replaced my children. So big shoes to fill, David, because my kids are very furious that you're my background and will be until the foreseeable future's
That's
over.
crazy. One of your kids is on my phone background. That's wild. And
Really?
yeah,
In the Superman costume?
no,
But
he's been on there for a
But-
while.
I really do. I think once I saw the trailer, I really kind of felt like it hit a bit more for me. There's one image. I don't know if you could find it fast enough, but you know the scene in the trailer where he's crouched down and he's about to punch that like window out.
Mhm.
When he's in that when he's in that scene, and also the scene where he swings by and he grabs the girl as the like things are exploding, the tanks are exploding behind him. That suit just looks insane there. It looks so good. So
Yeah.
I think I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, as long as it's not like, MCU levels of busy, which it's approaching, but not quite there. Then I think we're good.
Outside of the lines on the collar, there's really nothing to complain about, right? I'm happy that we got the trunks back. Obviously, they said that they had some issues with it making it look good, but I like superheroes to have costumes, right? I need that specifically. I don't need you guys to all wear suits, because some people wear suits. Blue Beetle has a suit, and that's fine.
Mhm.
But everybody else, please wear a superhero-esque costume,
Yeah, agree. I mean, we were in the doldrums for a while with things like the original X-Men trilogy, even going into more modern stuff with like the first season of the Flash TV show and Arrow, where all of like everyone was just wearing like leather, and it was like just doing too much in the realm of like, let's make these look, I guess, not as lame. But the problem is like the superhero costumes are not lame. They're cool as hell. Like Green Arrow looks sick, and if he shows up, guns out, like shooting bow and arrows, even if he wears the hat, the Robin Hood hat, even if he
He
wears
has
that,
to have the Robin Hood
That
hat.
needs
has to
to
have
be
it.
that,
It is
please.
It is a non-negotiable.
it won't happen.
He cannot
I
show
don't-
up
I
with.
don't think they're
He can't
brave
show
enough.
up with the full hood
I don't
cornholio
need a
look
hood.
going. We need the Robin Hood hat, and I need the curly Q little goatee. If he doesn't have that, I'm checked out.
Nick is speaking my language. That's
And you know what?
I need.
That never has the U.S. and the U.K. come together quite like this before.
Yeah.
I just don't think
Well-
they're brave enough, honestly. I think they're scared. They were scared about the Superman trunks. I think they'll be scared about the hat. They might do a goatee, but I feel like Green Arrow's going to have a hood.
No, not
I'm
at
tired
all.
of it.
I'm talking to James right now.
You
have
say,
the
You
power.
say that every week, and he still has not contacted us.
You're not
It's
very convinced.
mostly because
think
the
you
things
threatened
that I'm
him.
saying to him
Yeah.
are said in a very threatening tone of voice.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to be. Love you, big fan, but I need the hat. I need the curly Q mustache, the goatee. I need it.
We know you had
I don't
nothing
want
to
it.
do with the
I
costume
need it.
design on Scooby-Doo, but those characters looked great. They
Yeah,
looked
they were
just like
fantastic.
they came out the cartoon. That's what we want. That's what we want.
And while we're at it, bring back Karen Fukuhara as Katana, whose swords traps the souls of her victims.
Completely off topic. That
Yeah.
I
It's
agree.
on
That's
topic for me.
something.
It's on topic for me.
Someone
buddy.
should
I think
ask
about it
him
a
if-
lot.
Someone should ask him if that line is like, did Rick Flag Jr. say that in the DCU? Even
This is
maybe out of
Katana.
context.
Yeah, like maybe it
Yeah.
wasn't on the Osprey or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But did he say it to someone? Did he say it to his dad on the phone?
Has that ever left his
Spoken
mouth?
out
He was,
loud.
he was
It's just-
showing his dad pictures of his team, and he goes, "That's
This is
Katana."
Katana. Yeah.
we just need like economists to show up like on his phone, like
Traps the souls of
traps
her
the souls of her
victims.
victims. All right, I'm good with that.
Yeah, Economos is like the
Don't
lore
recast. It
keeper
needs to be
of-
Karen Fukuhara.
He's like the lore keeper of the verse,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
When they're asking like who dropped Rick Flag off, he was like, "What kind of monster was he? A ghoul? A spirit? A mite?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
He knew what Cersei could do. You know, he knew her powers.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is pretty cool. He is on the whatever. I guess it's just regular Wikipedia, right? Because all the stuff is real life. He's a mod or whatever on the superhero wiki and knows all of the information and maybe gives out a little bit too much. You know, he gives big Reddit energy.
Yeah, the superhero finder Reddit.
You know, he's on Versus Battle Wiki,
100%.
and he's got firsthand experience. Unfortunately, he can't leak who he is, but he sees
Like,
it all
trust me,
firsthand.
bro. Trust.
Yeah, he's. I don't know if he's very good though, because I think he did get kind of hosed during the bets of who would survive Corto Maltese when they were taking all the bets at the beginning. And let's be honest, if you guys were there, if you were part of that team that oversaw Task Force X, are you getting in on the bets, on the quote unquote Deadpool, if you will?
My anxiety.
Or is that
would simply not-
unethical?
My anxiety would simply not allow me to be part of that team. I would get fired like within a week.
I think the
I don't
the
think
whole
you get
thing
fired.
is rather
I think
unethical.
I think you get killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole
Yeah.
thing. If you're part of it at all, then you're probably
why not?
you're probably over the
Why not
line
make-
anyway. Yeah.
Why not make a extra $100? You know, if you can, or however much they were putting down.
All right. So just as a fun little exercise here, everyone knows who was part of the Suicide Squad. Hopefully,
Which
without the
iteration?
bias of the film, the movie, everyone that went to Corto Maltese,
Oh, okay.
and I'm talking about all the people that got killed on the beach as well.
Oh, okay.
No bias of you knowing who survives and who doesn't.
Okay.
Give me one character that you're putting money on that is going to make it to the end of that mission. I'll go
Morgan.
first.
I already went. Too late.
Yeah.
Well, okay, sorry.
Got speed list.
True, who'd you
How's that?
say?
I just
Mongal.
blurted it.
You said Mongal?
Manga.
I was going to
Yes.
say Mongal too. That just
Like-
seems like easy money.
Yeah, I would have been like, I would have bet like 5 times as much, and I would have been
You,
so mad.
you're watching the screen and she jumps and grabs the. It's worse than losing like your picks on the UFC that you don't even have money
Yeah.
on. Let alone like it would be like watching your parlay crash and burn, her going down in that helicopter. Like, what are you doing, bro?
I'd have lost my mind.
That's not your
I-
job, Mongal. You're on the ground. You're beating ass. What? We have
Go punch
Boomerang can
somebody.
throw his boomerang, or what's his face can throw his bouncy ball at it.
People
Why
have
can't-
guns. Why are you going? Like we have ranged weapons.
Harley Quinn
Yeah, I
has a bazooka.
Do we think she's canon in the DCU? Because
I
that
think so.
obviously implies Mongol. Like there's
Yeah.
War World out there. People know
Yeah.
about it. Like, do you think that's
That-
out there?
I hopefully.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, my
Superman's
money would have
fought
been on
Mongol.
Mongal for sure. The people that put money on Weasel were pissed. Dead in the
Yeah.
before they even get there. Done.
I wonder if, like, by the time of Creature Commandos, though, someone did have to pay out because he obviously made it. Like, if somebody put
Yeah.
money on him, he technically did survive the whole way through.
Yeah, we're gonna actually the next Creature Commando season or Suicide Squad or whatever that comes out, we're gonna be putting.
Absolutely.
Join the Discord. We're gonna be illegally betting on who survives the show. So be sure to if you're a member of the channel.
Whenever I think about like the first beach scene in the Suicide Squad, I always think about the helicopter ride on the way there, and he goes, "Your name is TDK? That's just letters." And he goes, "All names are letters, dickhead." I
Classic.
love that line.
Classic.
I'd have put money on Rick Flag though. Man's too handsome to die.
Well,
He's not gonna die.
You
in
can't
combat
put money
scenario.
on Rick Flag. He's not part of the team.
if you're
He
the
led
team
the
leader,
team.
yeah, you're part of the team if you're the team
What are you
leader.
talking
I
about?
mean, I think he's
on the
separate.
chopper on the ground. He's part of the team.
He's not part of Task Force X. He leads Task Force X, but he's not part.
He doesn't have a bomb in his head.
Oh, yeah, I
That's like
guess.
putting money on somebody to get to, like, the head coach to get 50 yards in a football game. He's not on the field. Like, he's part of
Rick
the
Flag
team, but he's
was
not
on the
on
field,
the
was
team.
killing people.
Yeah, well, that analogy might not work.
I think it works. I think it works. The coach is integral, but he's not throwing touchdowns. Is all I'm saying.
Well, that's my pick, and you have to accept it, or you didn't qualify who I could pick and who I couldn't.
Bit late.
That would be messed up, especially if he came back later. I feel like Rick Flag would also be the guy to snitch on you for doing bets under the table.
I'd tell you who I would not have picked to survive is King Shark. He's too big. I would have thought they would have targeted him with a bazooka immediately or something.
He's bazooka proof. He's like a demigod. I didn't even think of him. I put money on him too. Him and
Yeah.
Mongal. Those are my big bets.
You'd probably
Big
bet
monster.
against Polka-Dot Man. He's like a basket
I
case.
bet.
How
He's
dare
dead
you.
instantly.
I'm
for
sorry,
sure.
bro.
How dare you?
He doesn't have it. He doesn't have it
No,
together.
there's no disrespect. There's just so much polka dot disrespect flowing around in these parts. You hate to see it.
It'd be really tough.
Listen.
As far as creature commandos, if I was sprinkling a little, sprinkling a little parlay together for that.
Mhm.
Phosphorus 100% survives. I don't believe he would have ever died. Like,
Yeah,
I would have been shocked if he died, right?
Whoever puts money on Nina to survive was immediately asking for it to lose money because that was the most obvious.
That was a bad pick.
I feel
her
like
powers
though,
are not very apparent, and we don't
power-
know.
and-
we
and
never
you know
see her
very
with
well-
hydrokinesis. Like, we saw her get caught. If she had like crazy water powers, probably wouldn't have happened. Just saying.
But you also know she has to walk around on land with a helmet on that allows her to breathe. A rock hits that thing hard, she's finished, dude.
I don't know why they're like, all right, let's check your file. You were arrested by police. All right,
You're in.
Yeah, you're in. Let's go
They
raid
just
this.
looked at her. They just looked at her and were like, ugh.
Yeah.
Put her in the van. She's part of the team now.
Let's see if we can gaslight her into being a competent murderer.
yeah.
See if we
That's.
can
I mean,
do
that's
that.
kind of like, I rewatched the show yesterday. That's kind of what Amanda
They did.
Waller
They were like-
does. She's like, yeah, she'll
Yeah.
figure it out. She's like the only one that's not crazy, so maybe she'll make.
They were like, you
everyone
want
else
to kill
better."
people, right? She was like,
Yeah.
no. And they were like, come on. Just kill one person in the water. It'll make you feel better. She was like, I'll try it. All right.
What was
Then gets
King
gassed.
Shark? What was King Shark doing? Like, he wasn't. That's a.
He was
that's
he was hanging out.
That's a water.
Yeah.
That's
He's-
another water guy. Like, you got rid of. All right, we lost a water person. We need to replace the water person with a new one. This is the.
Yeah.
This is the one we got.
Yeah, he was on PTO.
You're right.
True.
He was on vacation.
Yeah, some of Waller's choices seem a little arbitrary.
We
for
need to
sure.
get in there and like talk to her. Like, what is going on? Like, she needs a power scaler in her ear. That's what she needs.
Economos isn't cutting it. He's he doesn't have
Put
all
the,
the
put the
details.
mummy in.
You know what
but
they
put him in an
also.
environment.
You know what the problem is? I don't think in the first Suicide Squad she had the best batch to go with. I think by the time, if we're talking DC Extended Universe, if we're talking by the time the Suicide Squad comes up, this is years later, a lot more villains being captured, bigger rosters, bigger budgets, bigger missions. Okay? In the first one, she was banking mostly on Enchantress. She fumbled that. Amanda Waller, she fumbles a lot. But that was a good pick, I think. That was a solid
It was
pick.
a solid pick.
She was too strong, is the problem.
El Diablo was a rock solid. pick.
Great pick.
Yes.
And then
that's
we
a top
saw
pick.
we saw Deadshot do his thing where he his little tryout scene. It was like, okay, this guy's good. We needed one of those for the Creature Commandos. We need to just see like, all right, let's see what these guys are capable of, because she does that in the comics a lot too. I remember when I was reading through all the appearances of White Dragon, she was like having the Suicide Squad members like fight each other to like see who was like the best to put on the teams and stuff.
The unfortunate fact about the first squad is it was assembled under the premise that they could fight an evil Superman, and I don't think El Diablo is going to be able to
You know
manage
who
that.
was a really good pick, though? Like,
Who's that?
low key from the first movie?
Mm-hmm.
Slipknot, the man who could climb anything.
Okay.
He was
Played by Lou Diamond Phillips.
he was the Nina of that group.
Wait, who
Just-
actually played that? I
what
don't
is-
remember.
I don't-
Why did you just make him up?
Slipknot.
I have no
The
clue.
actor.
No clue. I could not tell you.
I can vaguely
Oh,
remember
no,
what his
it was.
face was,
It's Adam Beach, Garrick, the guy from SVU, Law and Order
Oh,
SVU.
yeah.
He's what's his face or Olivia's partner for like a season.
Yeah, I remember
Incredible.
him. I remember him. Yeah.
But another solid pick that from that team, which has been drastically underutilized, is Ben Katana, whose sword traps the soul of the revenge. And
She's also like not on the team.
we know
though.
she's out there.
Well, she's not a
Well,
monster.
Well,
She's not in like jail. She's like
That's his
the
part.
assistant coach. I don't know where she came. It's like she's just like, I'll help you out, Rick.
Yeah.
Like, are they good buddies?
Yeah, that
Yeah,
is
fair
that
enough,
is
fair enough.
weird. She wasn't a criminal or a supervillain. Yeah, I don't.
She was just bored. They were like, yeah, all right.
Rick
put her in
called
there."
her
I want to trap some souls in my sword.
I mean, if you had a
Yeah,
special
yeah.
sword, would you help the Suicide Squad? Would you be like, yeah, I'll hop on this mission? Or
I wonder how did Rick Flag learn that, because she doesn't seem like she'd be very transparent with that information. And if you saw her
True.
cut somebody, how would you determine that it trapped a soul? You know, she had to have told somebody point blank, my sword traps the souls of my enemies. That's the only way you're getting that information.
Or like she,
If you're
their
going
soul
into a
comes
scenario-
out and is like gets sucked in, and they're like, no.
yeah.
If you're going into a scenario with the kind of insanity that she was, maybe she just made it up. Like, they'll leave me alone if I tell them the sword literally traps their soul.
Yeah.
That's
What would freak me? I'd be like, souls are real. I have a soul. What?
the implication of a soul being real also implies that Shang Tsung is never too far away from us at any given time.
True. And his soul could be his. Yeah, I feel like at that point you're like, all right, you know, I'm doing this to clear my prison sentence, but maybe I should really consider my soul. You know,
Yeah.
I need to get right.
I need to get right with the Lord. What am I
amend
doing?
my inequities as a criminal murderer. You know, it's not just about getting free and going back out there.
Garrick, you sent not to double back on a topic, but in during our podcast, we quite frequently will message each other things on Discord. Very common thing for people in podcasts to do. Not everybody talks all the time. Garrick sent a picture of Adam Beach as Slipknot, and I've never truly looked at this man's costume, but it is just absolutely unhinged. The guy has 40 pulleys and cables attached to him that come down to his chest. He has them on his shoulder.
He climbs. What do you want him to have? It's like
He's
Batman
the man. He's the man.
has his like utility belt. Slipknot has his ropes. It makes sense.
It is a pretty insane visual. You just like, okay, he climbs. What would he need? And they're ropes and grapple guns and.
every possible
You know what?
thing.
You know what? Put a pulley on his crotch right above his navel. It's fine.
Yeah.
Do that.
Have him
Give him-
where his shoulders and knees are bound by ropes, so he's always taut. He can never
He d-
bend forward.
He should also have on big gloves like he's ready to shovel snow.
Yeah,
You know,
he's pretty.
shoulder
great.
pauldrons would be great for him if we could have those, and cornrows. Just for the hair, just go with cornrows. That works.
You know,
I
they
was
look
gonna
like ropes
say.
as well.
I was gonna say
I'm
earlier. That's
sorry.
true. He could climb by his hair if he wanted to. I was gonna
First
say
Suicide Squad sucked ass so bad. I'm sorry, not sorry.
we just
Garrick and
went
I
down
talked about it for.
we went down a quagmire of the first
Yeah.
squad.
Our next
Which is why
episode's all
Harley-
about Suicide Squad.
Harley's probably gonna have to go for that reason. People are gonna just talk about the original Suicide Squad
Yeah.
forever if it's ever
Because-
uttered.
Oscar award
Is El
winning
Diablo
film.
canon to the DCU?
He should
Can
be.
Katana
mean-
sword.
If I talk about
Perfect
people we
dream, he
can
can
bring
come
back,
back.
yeah, I would love him back. You know,
Yeah.
I was saying, like, looking at Slipknot's design unironically and the weird, like, paramilitary operation. I was having a conversation, a week ago or so about how the MCU at this stage, it's not really superheroes. It's like everything. Like you look at what's coming out, and it's Captain America, Brave New World, which that's going to just be a military operation. It's like a a soldier essentially fighting the president or whatever. That's like a strictly government op, and then Thunderbolts is just going to be a government operation, and then like you look at some other things. Eternals isn't really; those aren't superheroes. Like kind of, sorta, not really. And I think that trickles down to the design. Like True is mentioning how Superman is like wearing a costume as opposed to a suit or a uniform necessarily. And I'm looking forward to that, man. I'm looking forward to stuff like the first Spider-Man where he goes out of his way to help people, and like they did that in Age of Ultron. They made a point where like Captain America catches the car and have the civilians be a focus of the mission, but it's just too
Have you ever
few
seen
and far
the
between.
picture? Have you ever seen the picture of Ultron from the set of Age of Ultron? Where he's wearing a parka. Pretty good, yeah, really good one. It's a good one. You should check it out. If you haven't seen it.
Age of Parkatron was my favorite installment.
What I'm really looking forward to with more Suicide Squad stuff is just Waller getting more and more like in over her head. The more amped up like the threats become. Like obviously Cersei, Enchantress, Starro, all three pretty big like problems. But I want her to like get into issues with like Trigon after reading like the most recent Titans run. I was like, just crazy stuff that she has no business being involved in whatsoever. Like, oh, this is Satan. What am I doing?
I need to see the team she picks out to fight Trigon. Please, Gunn. I need that.
Please bring Slipknot back for that.
Yeah, he can climb up them, right? Get to his eyes.
He can poke him in the eyes. Gotcha. Boink. Hit him with the Three Stooges special. But speaking of Suicide Squad members, we have 2 super chats. Now that we're getting here to the hour, so let's go ahead and take a look at these. As we said at the beginning of the podcast, if you leave us a super chat at the end of every episode, we will go back. We'll take a look at those, and we will answer any questions you may have or address any comments that you'd like to leave us. We have one here from Turner. So let's stick with the Suicide Squad. Out of all the Suicide Squad members in both movies, who would you pick as to make as the best team? And to make it more interesting, let's add in Creature Commandos. Let's make the team 8 members. We'll each pick 2.
Oh, okay.
I'll start. My first round number 1 pick, we're going to need a leader. We're going to need somebody that gets shit done, smart, capable, beautiful. I'm going with the Bride. First round draft pick. That's the first member of the team. Crisis, who do you got for us?
I think I want to go with skill. I want to go with strictly combat skill, boots on the ground. Of course, within the context of the DCEU, technically Deadshot is a better shot. However, there is that ridiculous statement for Rick Flag where they say he's like the best soldier ever born or something. Just outright blanket
statement.
Army's
ever produced, or the armed forces have ever produced. Yeah,
something crazy. He's got the death touch.
True.
He's also a pretty good battlefield commander. I think as long as him and the Bride aren't like stepping over each other's shoelaces, I think Rick Flag is probably pound for pound. Outside of his like weaponry, which he's got a pretty standard kit typically, but I think tactical, hand-to-hand skill, combat experience, I don't think you can really go wrong with Rick Flag.
All right, so we got the Bride, we got Rick Flag Jr. Nick, who's our third pick?
So you guys got effectively two leaders kind of in the team already. So I'm thinking about, you need a heavy hitter, somebody that is in there that acts as a tank, that can really kind of push. So of course I'll be picking Katana, whose sword traps the souls of her victims. Ladies and gentlemen, sorely underused. And I will not be backtracking. That is my first and second pick, actually.
Okay, so we have...
No, I do want my second pick, though.
Okay, we have the Bride. Rick Flag Jr., Katana, and True. Let's do a snake draft. So True, do number 4 and number 5, and then we'll go to Nick, then Crisis, and I'll
I think my first pick, we need some heavy firepower, So give me El Diablo. I think we bring him back, right?
He's got the transformation. Yeah.
Resurrected, brought back.
And then
great choice.
Second pick, we need some AoE. So give me Ratcatcher.
Ratcatcher. Okay.
Yes. Listen, there are situations in which Ratcatcher would just be so useful, and in those situations, you don't want anybody else, right? I think that's the pick.
Ratcatcher is on the team. So to recap, the Bride, Rick Flag Jr., Katana, whose sword traps the souls of her victims,
every single
El
time.
Diablo, and Ratcatcher 2. Nick, who is your second pick?
You don't even have to ask. He's the most dangerous member of both teams, possibly of any team. And something tells me he's still alive. That is Polka-Dot Man, ladies and gentlemen. He's on the team.
Polka-Dot Man has arrived, and Crisis. Who else are we adding? I'm going to be honest here. We need some stats. We need some stats on the board. We need some more metahumans.
I think it's probably Phosphorus then, right?
Yeah,
has he even claimed it?
Such a good pick. Not as good as Katana or Polka-Dot Man, but a good pick.
Hold on. But let's be honest here. Phosphorus and El Diablo kind of do the same thing.
That's true. I was thinking that. So King Shark
Phosphorus just does it cooler, dude.
Yeah, Phosphorus is better. He just is.
We can ask True. We can hold on. We can ask True if he'd like to trade El Diablo for Phosphorus.
No, I'm sticking with my.
Okay, we're sticking. So do we want to add a second fire type to our team? Our type coverage is terrible. Or do we want to
fire
change
type
it up?
Pokemon?
If not Phosphorus, you would go with King Shark, and I would hope that between the Bride and Rick Flag, they can make a soldier out of King Shark. I think they could do it.
If I really wanted to fumble this team, I would add another animal guy and put Killer Croc on the team. But I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna go left field. So we have one marksman. Typically, the teams have more than one. You could say the Bride is one as well, but I'd consider her more of like a close to mid-range brawler type that has access to the guns if she needs it. But right now, we're really just looking at Rick Flag Jr. I think we need a little bit more range on the team, as I don't think El Diablo quite has the range that we're looking for, or Polka-Dot Man. Decent range, but I would say mid-range fighters. We need a Deadshot, we need a Bloodsport, we need a Peacemaker, but I'm going to forego those gentlemen and go for the #1 Nazi killer of all time, G.I. Robot, for the final pick. What do you guys think?
Okay.
I think it was.
Our coin-operated boy.
I thought you were gonna pick Slipknot. Like I would have put $1,000 down, and you didn't.
No, I wanted a good team, bro, and I think we do have a good team. So to recap, we have.
It's crazy nobody picked Harley.
She's
fine.
She's fine now.
And she's also a good member.
She is in like the Bride archetype, and I'd rather have the Bride who can like throw hands with metahumans.
Yeah, superpowers.
So we have the Bride, Rick Flag Jr., Katana. We have El Diablo, Ratcatcher. We have King Shark, and we have who did I just pick? G.I. Robot. Wait, am I missing anyone? That's everyone,
you missed
right?
Polka-Dot Man.
Polka-Dot Man, yeah, because he's dead. But other than that, team is looking great.
Now, last minute edition, complete wild card. We're throwing it in just to spice things up, make the missions a little harder.
Joker.
I'm putting Enchantress in the team. Enchantress is in the team now.
Yeah.
My wild card is Slipknot.
To make the sexual tension.
They find him on the side of a wall or something, and he joins.
He's like Spider-Man just on the wall. Like, I was doing recon, brothers.
I climbed it. I can climb.
No one knows who he is.
So thank you, Turner, for that question. That was a great question and a good little segment there. And we do have another one. Turner left us a total of $20 today. Thank you so much for that. His second one was, I want DCU Green Arrow to be a mix between Stephen Amell and DCAU. Can be physical and serious like Amell, a bit quippy. I want him to keep the Justice League in check, just like the JLU. So that was more of a comment than a question, but we can talk about that for a second if you guys want to talk about how would you like your ideal Green Arrow to be in the DCU.
I think he could kind of be closer to the animated version in terms of his personality type, because I think the physicality of Stephen Amell's Green Arrow is cool for live action, but let's be real, the Arrow character is just Batman that they were allowed to use. And that's kind of what the first few seasons of Arrow is. Literally the first 3 seasons just a bunch of Batman stories with Green Arrow instead of Batman in them.
Yeah.
But I think if you kind of do it a little bit closer to how he's represented in the comic, I won't say comic books, but more like the animated universe, I think he tends to be a bit more endearing that way. He is essentially DC's Robin Hood. He's very rich, takes from the rich, gives to the poor, kind of a thing. And he dresses like him. And we need the hat, James. We need the hat.
James, honey,
With a
James,
red feather on
darling.
it.
We need
Jimmy.
the hat. Jimmy,
Jimmy,
baby, come on.
Jimmy, give me the hat, Jimmy.
We know he's out there too, because Peacemaker
He is.
says he goes to BronyCon.
James Gunn he is out there and he's watching.
James Gunn is out there. That's
Yeah, Green
Very
Arrow is already.
Oh shit, he's outside of my house right now.
He's looking in the window. He's Green Arrow's already confirmed canon, and so is Batmite. So, and even further confirmed by John Economos, which is pretty sweet. But thank you again, Turner, for both of those. And then
greatly appreciated.
The other one you left was just "Hey everyone," which hey man,
What's up?
how you doing?
Hey.
Good. I hope you're good. I hope you're doing great. But that is it for us today here on the DCU Experience. Great, wild, wacky episode that we had for you. Went over a bunch of different topics between the canon, and then we just went off the rails talking about Suicide Squad. And I don't know what it is about a Key Issues podcast, but we got to talk about that 2016 movie every damn time we have a podcast. But it's a funny movie to talk about, I think. Is it a great movie? It's an Oscar award-winning film.
It is.
So that is how we will leave you guys today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, this podcast is sponsored by Gamer Subs. If you would like to level up your liquid intake, your gamer abilities, go to gamersubs.gg/key issues and save yourself 10%. I was, slyly drinking it the whole podcast in case you guys caught that, but it is actually very good. Genuinely is pretty tasty. So if that's something you're into, check it out. Helps us out. But that is it for us, for Crisis, True, Nick, and myself. Thank you so much for checking out episode number 5. We will be on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music very shortly. So if you are on any of those and you do like to check out your podcasts and listen to them in the car or whatever you want, audio versions, please go check those out. Leave us a rating and give us 5 stars if we deserve it, or give us 4, but no lower than that. Thanks again for watching, everybody. We will see you next week in the DCU Experience.